Hi, and welcome to Women, Wealth, and Wellness with Laurel Buckaloo. I'm Mary Elizabeth Bukai, and I serve as Assistant Director of the Women's Philanthropy Board, and this is a Women's Philanthropy Board Roundtable program. WPB is an educational outreach organization housed in the College of Human Sciences at Auburn University, and we provide educational programs to the public on a wide range of topics, as well as mentoring initiatives within Auburn University. For today's program, we're excited to have with us again financial advisor and co-owner of the Railroad Investment Group, Laurel Buckaloo. Laurel is a lifelong resident of Opelika and began her career as a financial advisor in 2015, working for Edward Jones. She's received numerous awards and accolades since entering the financial planning field. Laurel co-founded Railroad Investment Group in 2018 and draws on her own personal experiences to help her clients navigate uncertain times in their lives. She also particularly enjoys working with local nonprofits and charities to establish new ways for donors to give. Laurel will be talking with us today about the shift that's occurring in the world of financial decision-making, where women are finding themselves wealthier than ever before, but still might not feel comfortable making those financial decisions. Laurel led this program for us about a month ago in person, and she had such wonderful information to share that we decided we wanted to record it to put it on our YouTube channel so that we could share it with even more people. We hope that what you learn here today will allow you to leave this session feeling more empowered and mindful of your own personal finances. Laurel, thank you so much for being willing to do this with us again, and I'll turn it over to you now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mary, for that kind introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and get a few things pulled up. Like Mary said, my name is Laurel Buckaloo, and I am the co-owner of Railroad Investment Group in Opelika. And before I get started, I want to share a story that I can remember very vividly. It was January of 2014. And I remember it being incredibly cold that particular month, and it snowed. Now, if you ask me any other month, any other year when times that it snowed in Alabama, I'm not going to remember specifically. I mean, it happens very rarely, but cannot name another one. But I specifically remember this January. And the reason for that is because I was a new mom with a 3-week-old child, and my then husband left. He disappeared, left the home. We could not locate him, could not find him. A couple of days later, I decided, well, this seems strange. I probably need to check the bank account. Sure enough, every single bank account, retirement account, everything completely wiped out, gone. So here I am with the newborn with very, very minimal money. I was already going part-time to work because I thought I was going to be a full-time mom. That did not work out that way. Well, let's rewind a little bit, fast forward. And we go back about 3 or 4 months when I finally got my feet up under me again, and I started to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel and just started to see clearly. I realized the only person that could manage my finances and take full financial control of my future was myself. I had a new reality. I was a single mom. And that became apparently clear, whereas before, I was living with a man. I was also raised in a household in the Deep South. I mean, Mary, maybe you're familiar with this, maybe not. I know we've talked about this before, but I was raised in, you don't need to worry about that, sweetheart. A man's going to take care of that. You don't have to worry about money. You don't have to worry about saving. That is not your role. You will be okay. Everything will be taken care of. Well, that was not the case for me. And I realized the only person that could take full charge and control of my financial future, as well as my child's and my son, was myself. So I began educating myself on all of this, everything financially related, saving, investing, and I really enjoyed it. And I really had a knack for it. And so I decided in 2015 to take all the licensing exams, become a financial advisor. And my real passion is helping women, single women, widowed women, and married women, because so often we're left out of the conversation. We're not brought to the table when it comes to money matters. And the reality is, we need to be. I mean, everything is really, really rapidly changing. So we're going to dive right in and discuss what that is and hopefully leave here with a little bit more confidence. So I just said, that we now as women control 51% of the wealth in the United States. As of 2020, we controlled $22 trillion in this country alone. So there's a big shift happening. So women now control the majority of the wealth. 52% of women are executives and higher end professionals holding those executive jobs over men. We're also seeing higher divorce rates, and we're also seeing more money go into the hands of women due to maybe an inheritance from a parent or a spouse. Maybe women, maybe you're the breadwinner. For various reasons, women are becoming more and more affluent and controlling that wealth. Yet we don't necessarily feel that confident about it, and we're not discussing it. A little fact too, I actually am remarried, and my husband is 6 years older than I am. Well, according to statistics, I will outlive him by 7 years. So even if you are a married person and everything is organized and ready, the reality is, as a woman, you're more than likely going to outlive your husband. So again, we're starting to control more of the wealth in this country, and we really need to know how to do that. And it's really a great thing, Mary. Honestly, it's really, really cool how the whole financial industry, how that is all shifting and that landscape is changing. But with that comes a lot of responsibility. So we have a ton of responsibility as well. This isn't just a windfall for women. You know, we need to do the right things with it and be really wise with it. So one of the things when we're talking about money is, you know, this is called the 8 dimensions of wellness. This is actually a study that was done by the American Psychiatric Institute, and it lists their 8 dimensions of wellness. Everybody has, you know, well-being. And when we think about wellness, we think, of course, we think physical wellness, we think emotional, spiritual wellness. But what we don't think of is financial well-being. And being financially well and of sound mind and understanding financially where you stand is a huge part of your overall physical wellness. I can remember 7 years ago, because my son is now, it's a little over 7 years ago, actually 8, when everything happened and my world fell apart in that moment. I remember laying in bed worried about money, and it was just like physically it impacted me. I mean, I couldn't breathe. I don't know. And I think most people, whenever you've had a moment where you've had some sort of financial crisis or chaos, which, and here's the thing, if you haven't had that, you will at some point. And it can cause all sorts of issues, physically, emotionally, you name the gamut. But the good news is we can avoid that and overcome that if we are doing all the right things and we're taking really good care of ourselves. When we think of money, and Mary, I'm going to ask you this. When I say money or wealth, what do you think? Like, tell me a word that comes to mind.
Comfort.
Comfort, that's a good one. Okay, security. And that's a big thing too. Women, we love having that security. You know, I think that's also where it's different for men and women. The way we view money is going to be very different, the way we approach it. Women tend to maybe be a little bit more emotional about money. Men see dollars and cents a little bit more. I don't want to speak generally for everybody, but generally speaking, they're going to look at something on here like assets, liabilities, or they're going to, you know, look at wealth management and cash flow statements, whereas women might look more at the emotions or the issues and the problems. And the reality is you've got to have a healthy approach to money as far as that mindset goes. I want you to give me an example of when you have felt rich or something that you do or have done that has made you feel rich. And if you want me to, I can give an example if that helps, but if you can go first, go.
I have a perfect example because it just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
We bought our first ever king size bed, and it was like a really big purchase for us. And we are so excited about it, but it was something that we didn't want to spend money on when it wasn't something that we could like comfortably spend money on. So
when is it getting delivered?
It was delivered yesterday.
Oh, so you got it. It's delivered.
It's delivered, and the mattresses were delivered today. So tonight, first time sleeping in a king size bed in my own home. We're very excited.
Was it fabulous?
I hope so. I love it.
No, it's funny you say that. I think a king size bed changed my life. Congratulations. See, that's money well spent. And even though it's a big purchase on the front end, it's going to give you many a restless sleeps ahead. Very wonderful. That's a wonderful example. And I think I maybe have told you this before, Mary, but one way that I feel rich is I love going to the airport. There's something that is so exciting about going on an adventure, going to the airport with all the hustle and bustle. Well, it used to be that way. Now it's a little bit chaotic and not as enjoyable, but knowing that I'm going somewhere always made me feel rich. Another example is absolutely my favorite thing to do is to sit on our side screen porch with my husband at night, have a glass of wine, and we just recap the day. Like that's the moment where I think my life is really great and I'm so blessed. And I think, the reality is feeling rich is not, it's sometimes a state of mind. It is dollars and cents, but it's so much more than that. And we really want women to start looking at redefining what wealth is. So wealth obviously is money. I mean, that's something that people automatically go to. But wealth is so much more than that. And getting and empowering women to see wealth and money as just a tool to get the life that you want to live, it can really take off the weight of having to overthink it too much. So we really, really, really need to start redefining how we think about what being rich is and what wealth is, because so much of how we feel about it it's really gonna drive the dollars and cents part of it. Right here, right? So let's a little bit talk about this. So I said women now control 51% of the wealth. Yet, if you look at this is quite interesting. When we did a poll on women, 58% said my spouse takes the lead. 23% say I take the lead, and 19% we share decisions equally. I find that interesting that the 19 we share decisions equally is actually the smallest. It's just there's a huge discontent on that, and I think that is incredibly, incredibly interesting. Now, when it says my spouse takes the lead, so I've said earlier, finance and financial well-being is one of the dimensions of overall well-being. And I think I can say this to a group of women, but it's kind of like women don't make an appointment with the gynecologist and send their husband to the appointment. You would never do this, and that's insane. You don't make an appointment for yourself to go to something and then say, well, my husband's just going to go to that appointment for me. And it should be the same in regards to your finances, because really when it breaks it down to it, it is, especially if you're married, there's that joint decision, and you need to know what's going on. We women need to really know more what's going on as we're obtaining and controlling more of the wealth in the country. We need to know what's going on so we know how to best steward that wealth. Now, on this, Mary, I'm going to ask you something. What do you notice on this chart? A couple of things that maybe stand out to you.
Men are consistently more confident.
Okay. Yes. Yep. They are. Do you see anything else that's interesting? No.
The confidence in women is getting higher, which is good.
Yep. Yes. Okay. So really good points. You're right. The big thing is there is a gap between men and women as far as their confidence goes. But interestingly, when you look at where men rank the highest, they're still only in about the 55 percentile, maybe close to 60 in the highest level, which even means men aren't fully confident either when it comes to money matters. They're just really good at exhibiting that confidence that they have it. And again, not picking on men here, but the reality is that women are less confident than men. We need to close that gap for sure. But also when we're dealing too in that American people overall don't have an incredible amount of confidence when it comes to money. And that's a little alarming too, in the sense that, currently we sit as we are the wealthiest nation. I mean, well, currently, yes, but that has ever accrued this kind of wealth in all of history. And so we really need to be working more on our confidence. So how do we get more confident there? And a big way that we become more confident in managing our money and managing wealth and finances is to work with another professional. That is a huge key, and we'll get into that in just shortly. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Get to this one. Now, when we're looking at women and their top financial planning needs, 76% say retirement, 72% say long-term care for themselves. So that's if something happens to them, they want to be able to be covered so that, maybe they're not a burden to their family or their children. And then 68% say insurance. What's interesting too on this is 2 out of these 3 deal with other people. On the long-term care and the insurance, it's women going, I don't want to inconvenience my family members or my children. The 68% on the insurance, medical and life insurance are going, I need more of this so that I can either leave something behind as a legacy, or I've got more coverage so I'm not burdening others financially. Again, this shows to me that women have higher, it's that maternal instinct, the thought of wanting to care for others, which I think is also huge when we're talking about women are starting to control more of the wealth. It's definitely, we're seeing a shift. And I know, because I said, we've talked about this with Women's Philanthropy Board, so much of what y'all do is to also teach and gear people into, okay, how can we maximize our philanthropic efforts? How can we get people how can we match them with projects and philanthropic groups that really mesh well with what individuals' needs or what individuals are passionate about. So it really goes well with what y'all are doing, because we're also seeing we're seeing more women getting more money. They tend to want to give more away to church, charity, whatever it may be that matters to them. They also want to usually leave more of a legacy. I mean, you can see right here that they really think more about others than themselves in many ways. So again, we've got a huge possibility in the future to see a potential for philanthropic efforts and taking care of others potentially expand, as long as people are educated on this and sort of know, hey, this is where my money can be maximized and put to use. So like I said, this is about finding balance, and it's not about dollars and cents. It's about overall financial well-being. And the best way to do this is to have a plan built around your goals. So we think, well, my goals, what does that really look like? So let me say this. I want to drive to California. I'm going to plan a trip to California. Do I just get in my car and start driving? I say, well, let me just see where the sun sets. It sets west. I'm just going to follow that every day and follow, right? Do you know anybody that would do such a thing? No. So you're going to map this out. You're going to put it into a GPS plan. You're going to say, all right, this is the route I want to take. I want to take the fastest way. The fastest way being, I'm going to go straight through. I guess there's no really fast way to California, but the quickest, if we're going straight shot, would be, I'm going to go straight on in through Texas and just keep on going through the Southwest states until I hit Los Angeles. Okay. However, maybe I don't want to take that route. Maybe your route is you want to see Santa Fe. You want to go see the Grand Canyon on your way. You're going to take some detours. Your trip's going to take a little bit longer. Maybe you've got a little bit more time for your trip than I have. So again, every individual is different in what they're going to need. Your finances are the same as that. You need a roadmap to where you're going. You've got end goals, so you need to sit down and go, okay, what is my end game here? From here, I got to draw my map. And that's where a financial advisor can really come in and help you map that out really well. And this is actually really, really, really fun. Just on a side note, my husband and I, we probably monthly go over our financial map. I mean, and it changes. And that's what's so great is it doesn't have to be something that's set in stone. And honestly, it shouldn't be, because there are going to be things that pop up that are going to change your course or your destination. I'm going to add a little bit more to this as well. And as you can see, this says a financial plan is based on an individual or family's clearly defined financial goals, including funding for college education for the children, buying a larger home, starting a business or retiring on time or leaving a legacy. So everybody's plan is going to be a little bit different. For example, I mentioned my husband and I, we probably monthly talk about our long-term plan. My long-term plan is going to be very different from, say, my brother. My brother has 4 daughters. I have 1 child. My brother's got to pay for 4 girls to go to college and 4 weddings. His route is going to be far different than mine. God bless him. I'll be honest, I don't envy his route whatsoever. but the reality is he's got a different route. He's got to have a different plan in place. And everything is going to, be a little bit different. And, money can do 4 things for us. We can spend it, we can lend it, we can grow it, and we can give it. That's it. That's what money does. And you don't do all those things necessarily all at the same phases of your life. I call this buckets of money. So we can look at our first bucket. We need liquid money. We need something for the next 3 to 5 years that we can easily get our hands on. It says, entertainment and travel, or maybe a home purchase. You weren't thinking you wanted to upgrade and get a different home, but that perfect place came open, and now all of a sudden your smaller bucket, your shorter term cash is going to be shorter. Longevity, 4 years to a lifetime, that's going to be your retirement. That's going to be the things that you're going to want to spend and maybe use on, something else, maybe give some to the grandkids in that period. And then your legacy, what you want to get behind for philanthropic and possibly to, your children, if you want to transfer wealth. But essentially, all our money is as a tool for those 4 things. And what you do with your money today is going to look very different than what you're going to be doing with your money in, say, 20, 30 years. Everybody's on a different path there. Again, somebody already in retirement, they might have plenty of time that they can take the scenic route to California, through the Badlands in Colorado, over into San Francisco. They might have a lot more time. Whereas I just want to get there faster. Now, what we do know also about life is things happen all the time and things unfold. So when I meet particularly with clients specifically, I'll talk to them about, okay, we know this is your great little plan. This looks really good on paper, but here's the reality. Stuff's going to come up along the way. Again, using my driving analogy. We're driving, we're going, all right, I'm going to make it here in X amount of time to California. What if you get in a traffic jam? What if you get a flat tire? Things happen that slow up or can change the course or the route you're going. So these plans need to be living and breathing, and they need to be able to be changed at any moment. And even before that happens, we don't know what the changes are going to be. For example, we never knew COVID was going to hit when it hit. We didn't know about it. And when it hit with a vengeance, and it changed, it halted a lot of people's financial plans. We can't ever project something like COVID specifically. We can't ever project that, a child's going to be in crisis and they need help financially. We can't know exactly what's going to happen, but we do know that things are going to happen. And so we really, really, really need to be looking at, when we are talking about building a plan, okay, we know we're expecting to retire. We know we're going to send 1 or 4 kids to school and pay for weddings. We know that we are going to be selling our business one day, or we need long-term care. We know those things. What we don't know, though, is you might end up divorced. You might end up losing your spouse much sooner than you thought you were. We might be hit with another global pandemic. So it's not, we know the unexpected is coming. So it's very, very, very important that you work with somebody who is on the front end saying, okay, we know the unexpected is coming. We know that we're going to hit some major road bumps. We don't know what those are, but here's the plan in place for when they happen. This is the plan we're going to execute, and we're going to have to change our destination. Have you, Mary, and you don't have to give specifics, but have you ever had things happen, obviously, that unexpectedly change, let's say, the course of a job, or the course of, your home buyership or your family situation, anything like that? Can you think of anything?
Yeah, well, the first thing that comes to mind is when Mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, I dropped out of graduate school to go to work at her company to kind of fill in that gap a little bit. And that was not something I had ever planned on.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why plans, especially when it comes to your finances, they need to be open architecture, just like your life is sort of open architecture. We have a beautiful plan for it, but it doesn't always work out that way. And that's okay. We can still get where we're going, even when those unexpected bumps happen. Talking about, and I mentioned, earlier, my divorce, when you see this with widows and divorcees, so this shows that 74% discovered negative financial surprises when they're widowed or divorced. I know I did. 76% wish they had been more involved in long-term financial decisions, and 77% encourage other women to take a more active role in their finances. So what we can see here is that, again, let's go back to what we said earlier. Only 19% of women are making joint decisions or really know what's going on with their husbands when it comes to finances. Yet this 74% right here is saying, whoa, of course there were negative financial decisions. You weren't present at the doctor's office. You weren't present at these financial checkups with your spouse. Wish they'd been more involved in long-term decisions. But what I really love about this is that 77% encourage other women to take a more active role in their finances. And I think this is something so valuable that women have. I think it's just in our nature to experience and then turn around and share and help others when they go through it too. And this is not making light on anything that widows or divorcees go through. It is incredibly tough, but I also think this shows there is a whole tribe of people behind women, that there's so many resources out there of women wanting to encourage and educate and help other women as they're trying to navigate these things that just aren't expected, that are really, really hard. You mentioned a minute ago your mom being diagnosed with breast cancer and having to drop out of grad school. So you are the perfect example of the sandwich generation. Sandwich generation is the group that is stuck between helping care for elderly parents as well as children / growing children. It used to be kids left house at 18 and you were on your own. We're not seeing that as much anymore. I mean, kids can stay on their parents' insurance till 26. A lot of parents still help their children a little bit later. And unfortunately, that caretaker role primarily falls on women. And it falls on our largest income earning years. So here we are this is where we're making the most money, and yet we're being pulled in 18 different directions, caring for aging parents, sick parents, and children. Mm-hmm. That burden just naturally falls more on women than men. So not only do women, now we're holding most of the wealth in this country, we're not really brought to the table in conversations, and yet here we are, we're losing a lot of this, catch-up time, taking care of what is, we're the sandwich generation. And so we've got to really also look at that and say, okay, how do we maximize our time in this sliver of time that we have and really start making that money work for you? But you're the perfect example. And I think if we ask a lot of our peers, they'll say the exact same thing. They're taking care of children, and in some situations, parents. So a little bit about, all right, so you're talking about, all right, we manage this, well, we have control of all this wealth now. What does that mean exactly? And, there's so many different avenues to wealth generation, but the largest wealth generator we have ever had is the US stock market. So Mary, I'm going to ask you something. When I say stock market, what comes to mind? What do you think?
I think it's confusing. I understand the basics, but I don't really understand it.
No, that's okay. So, all right, you have anything else confusing? When I can throw something out that I hear other people say, scary, volatile, yes. Gambling. I've heard it's gambling. It's so trying to throw some others out there. So a lot of times when people hear the word stock market, they think And it is, I mean, here's the reality. It is confusing, but it's really not. You know, the people behind this, it's like the man behind the curtain. They want you to think this is a lot more difficult than it really is. It's really, really pretty simple, and it's really pretty cool. And it's been incredibly life-changing, particularly for the middle class in this country. But, you know, yeah, I mean, people kind of freak out. They think, I don't want my money in the stock market yet. I mean, you're at Auburn. Do you have a 403B there, the retirement?
We do. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So believe it or not, you're invested in the stock market. That is tied to the stock market. So now that we're kind of talking about a little bit like what we think when we hear the stock market. So Mary, I'm showing you this piece. This is a chart that is from First Trust, which is a firm out of Chicago. And it goes all the way back to right when World War II ended to present day. So can you tell me something that you noticed about this?
The bear markets are a lot shorter than the bull markets.
Okay, being the bull is all the blue
Mm-hmm.
and the bear is all the orange, just to clarify. Mm-hmm. Okay, what else?
The amount of growth in the stock market just increases exponentially year over year.
Yep.
Especially in the 90s.
Yeah. So, well, especially the 90s. Yeah, that was a booming time. And we won't, you know, not to bring up politics, but people often say, well, when certain parties are in office, the market doesn't do as well as others. And, you know, the 90s proved to us that is not the case. It really doesn't matter who is president. Actually, it has very little to overall do with the long-term effects of the stock market. Yes, you're absolutely right. So the blue is the bulls, the orange is the bears. So we noticed that there is a lot more blue than there is orange, and the blue lasts a lot longer. Mm-hmm. Now, interesting too. And so here, and if there's one thing you can take away from this, I want you to remember that downturns are normal. The oranges, that it's going to happen. Everybody asks me all the time, when are we going to have another pullback? What's going to, well, yeah, are we going to have another pullback? Of course we will. They're normal. They're going to continue to happen. You can see that with all the orange. We will have more. Downturns are normal. Upturns, or the blue, follow those downturns, and they last a whole lot longer. Now, Mary, I want you to look at, like, if you can kind of see where 2020 is. Mm-hmm. Okay. So 2020, we had a long run between right at 2009, 2010, all the way up to 2020. That was March of 2020. And you can barely see it at all. But we have, do you see that little dip? There's blue, a lot of blue, and then the blue is starting to come back?
Yes.
Okay. So right there, you can't see it. That is actually, we had a very, very, very short recession. It's the shortest recession on history, on record. So we actually did have a recession. It was last year when COVID hit. There was a significant pullback in the market, and it lasted very, very short. And a big reason people think it was so short is technology has evolved so quickly that we're able to respond much faster now. So we wouldn't be surprised if going forward, we start to see these pullbacks, this orange, be shorter, the time frame's shorter, potentially because of technology. Now, with that being said, you go back to 2010 all the way to 2020, we had a pullback. That would show us that we're now in the early stages of a new blue. So history would tell us we're headed into another, potentially, anywhere from who knows how long, another bull market. We're back into a bull market. So when everybody's telling you on the media it's bad out there, companies are still making money. You're still buying their products. So we don't really foresee that on the horizon. So your 403B should be pretty safe right now. This here also shows you stock market if you're afraid. This is actually a really great one. I love this one. Had you put $10,000 into just the S&P averages usually around 11% annually. $10,000 back in 2007 would now be worth, not doing anything or adding any money. I think I can't see a little bit, but over $34,000 now just sitting there. So it tripled in a little over a decade. And I want you to see what all this says right here. It says Federal Reserve arranges takeover. Obama sworn in as president. Lehman Brothers files for bankruptcy. We have the Boston Marathon bombing. We have ISIS begins offensive in Iraq. We've had hurricanes Harvey and Irma. We've had a lot of bad headlines happen. And yet the stock market continued to grow. Now, see all these dips kind of in between?
Mm-hmm.
That's just when the market pulled back. So Mary, I'm going to ask you a question to another one. What's your favorite thing to shop for? And it doesn't have to be for you, even if it's something maybe you love buying for family or friends, but what's something you enjoy shopping for?
I don't know, this is a great example for the analogy, but books is my favorite. Bookstores.
No, that's perfect. No, that's actually great. Okay, so Barnes and Noble, you go into Barnes and Noble, you want to buy, you know exactly what you're looking for. You've got, I can only spend X amount of dollars in Barnes and Noble because it can be really expensive for these wonderful, beautiful, beautiful coffee table books. So what if Barnes and Noble sent you an email and said, this weekend only 30% off all inventory? Are you going to go shopping or order something online? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct. Because it just went on sale, right? I mean, if you wanted to buy a copy of, I don't know, what's your favorite book, Mary? What's your favorite genre? We can edit this part.
Yeah, no, autobiographies that's what I'm really into right now.
To what?
Autobiographies.
Autobiographies. Okay. So you want to go buy the new Harry and Meghan unauthorized, not autobiography, biography. And now this book is 30% off thanks to Barnes and Noble. It's still the same book. It's just on sale for a limited time. People all the time will say, well, I love shopping for designer bags, whatever it is. You don't go and buy a nice bag if it goes on sale and all of a sudden think, well, this must be junk now. It's the same product. It just went on sale temporarily. The stock market is the only thing that goes on sale that people don't recognize is quality on sale. You're just missing a sale. So when these dip is the best time to be buying. Did you wake up this morning and brush your teeth?
I did.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. That's nice. Did you use your cell phone at all today?
Yes.
Do you have an iPhone?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So you used your iPhone. Did you flip your light switch this morning when you got up and got ready to leave? Did you turn on your light switch at your office?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got power companies. We've got Apple iPhone, and we've got Colgate toothpaste brought to you by Procter & Gamble. Those companies, you're still going to use their products on a daily basis. Right now, I saw this earlier, Apple is down from its all-time high by almost 9%. Yet you still use your iPhone every single day. We all do. This isn't going anywhere. This is just on sale right now. That's all it is. It's still the same quality product. So we really have to start thinking about the stock market as when we get pullbacks and the media goes crazy bonkers and says it's terrible, this is awful, it's just all falling apart. That is the signal that you need to be buying and you need to be adding to your portfolio without a doubt, because these are still products that people use every day. And unless we come to a time where people quit brushing their teeth and quit buying iPhones and quit turning on their power, amongst other things, we'll worry about that then. But in the meantime, those are still viable, good companies. You're investing in viable, good companies. And short term, they're going to react to what's going on in the news and in the world. But long term, they're still going to find ways to make earnings and make that 403B of yours grow. Mm-hmm. Again, we look at this. I mean, I hear this a lot. 2008, 2007, when the market just took a serious beating and a longer term recession there. But people will say all the time, I lost money that year. Well, you only lost if you sold, because all of the good quality came right back. So, I never tell people personally, stay the course. If you stay the course, history shows that the market always does rebound. I don't like seeing the course because I feel like when there are pullbacks, that's the best time to be buying. You always want to be making some investments. Now, human nature dictates that if we do anything well, we have to have the commitment. Sorry, I'm gonna have to do this again. So, Mary, human nature dictates that for us to do anything well, we have to have the commitment, the knowledge, and the desire to do something. When was the last time you self-diagnosed yourself with an illness?
Oh, daily.
Daily, okay. I think we all do that. Maybe that wasn't the right question to ask. When was the last time you walked to a doctor and you said, I'm not going to tell you why I'm here, but I need antibiotics and I also need a prescription for this medication, this one, and this one, but I'm not going to tell you what's wrong?
Never.
That doesn't happen. You go to a doctor for their professional expertise. You go to them and say, I'm having these symptoms. I need a diagnosis and I need you to help me fix this problem. And we think so much, we go to attorney. We don't usually write our own legal documents. Most people don't. I don't advise that. We don't diagnose ourselves usually with big illnesses and start prescribing ourselves. We can't prescribe ourselves our own medication. It's the same with financial planning. I mean, you can do it, sure, but do you have the desire? Just like you could go to med school and learn everything, but is that your desire? Is that where you want your time spent? And that right there, we talked about the confidence gap earlier. That is what can bridge that confidence gap, especially for women. Women particularly have said that when working with a financial advisor, it left them so much more confident and free to go enjoy their life and live it the way that they want to. Life is not meant to be spent anxious, nervous, or doing any of this alone. You need a team of people helping you with your health, your well-being, your physical fitness, and also your finances. And we have found that women, when they do work with financial advisors, they are incredibly more confident. And that's how we can close that gap of women. They're not as confident in that regard. They're just not as knowledgeable. But you work with a financial advisor, you're going to become so much more knowledgeable. And here's the kicker too. You have to be honest with your advisor. And I always tell my clients, I'm like, whatever you say here, it's like HIPAA. It's protected. It's not leaving this room. And nobody will ever know you're here unless you decide to share that with them. But regardless, working with any advisor, you've got to be fully honest, because an advisor can only do good by you what you tell them. They can't help you anymore. You don't go to the doctor and not tell them what's ailing you, what's bothering you. The same on your finances. And I know it can be a very personal and very vulnerable place to be, but working with somebody you trust will absolutely help build up your confidence and allow you to feel really empowered, especially right now as women are controlling more of this wealth. And like I said, it's a huge opportunity, but heavy is the head that wears the crown. We've got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of responsibility, and women have to start talking about this a lot more. So Mary, I really thank you for having me and letting me share and discuss. And I don't know if you have any questions for me currently.
Well, the only thing I would ask is if you will share your contact information for anybody that's watching that might have questions about anything that you went over today. I don't know if you can put it on the screen in any way, but if you just want to say it out loud in case anybody wants.
Yes, I can. And yeah. I am, like we said earlier, I'm the co-owner of Railroad Investment Group in downtown Opelika. And my email address is Laurel at Opelika, OPELIKA.com.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
I appreciate you sharing your time and doing this for us again, but I just think this information is so valuable that this makes it a lot easier for us to share it with anybody who might be interested. And every woman should be interested in this. So I really appreciate you being here, and I really appreciate y'all for tuning in. And again, my name is Mary Elizabeth with the Women's Philanthropy Board at Auburn University. If you have any questions about Women's Philanthropy Board or future programming, You can, calling me is probably the best way. It's 334-844-3524. And I'd love to hear from anybody. Thank you, guys.